Hi, my name is Kate, and this is my project on art and the modern gods. Ancient depictions of the gods can sometimes be tricky. It can be hard to decipher which god is being pictured at times because they all look so similar. As you can see on the slides, I have examples of all of the busts from Zeus and Hades and Poseidon, compared to all of the busts from Hera, Athena, and Aphrodite. As you can see, there's not much variation in the way these different gods are depicted. Another example of it sometimes being tricky to tell which god is being depicted when is a certain bronze statue that is called Zeus or Poseidon of Cape Artemisia. Historians cannot discern which of the gods the statue is meant to honor because it looks so similar to statues of Zeus and statues of Poseidon, and there's no symbols to help us discern them. A lot of ancient art is sorted in such a way that we cannot tell which god is being shown. Obviously, we have certain signs that can help us recognize the gods, but they aren't always there to help us. That's why it's so important to see how the gods are depicted in art so that we can see how they're depicted in modern times as well. The Greek gods have been described countless ways, but Ovid has some of the most interesting descriptions. You can see from these quotes that the god's physical appearance is not vividly described by Ovid. In many ways, Ovid describes the gods' personalities, as if to say that the appearance of the gods is not necessarily important to begin with. In many cases, the gods are referred to in association with some natural beauty, like when Ovid describes Artemis in the grotto. The Greeks believed that the gods looked like them, like people, but that they were a reflection of a higher state of being, so their beauty was probably also assumed to be otherworldly. I liked the quote about Apollo where Ovid compared him to a flame. He said, "He is like a flame, like sunlight glancing on gold." This isn't really telling of any physical appearance or physical beauty, but it kind of shows Apollo's aura, the way that the people saw him and the way that he was thought of. And it is a beautiful quote. Throughout Greek mythology, the gods take many different forms. The tragic tale of Semele describes just what would happen if the gods were to be seen in their truest form. Semele, a lover of Zeus, asked to see him as his godly wife saw him. So she was essentially asking him to come to her as he would come to Hera, who was another Greek. He kind of knew what would happen if he revealed himself, but he revealed himself to Semele anyway, and upon seeing Zeus's true form, Semele was burned to death, incinerated from the inside out. It's not a stretch to say that the Greeks did not actually know what the gods looked like, and because of this, they are all depicted in the same fashion. Each of them are modeled to the standard of beauty the Greeks held, and the only defining features that are depicted alongside the gods are the specific symbols that are associated with them. Ovid's brief descriptions of what the gods look like kind of reflect this idea of the Greeks that one could not replicate the physical appearance of the gods. And it also comments on the fact that humans couldn't handle the raw appearance of the gods, that they weren't worthy to see them that way. On this slide, we have two images portraying the same monument. The left is what we believe to be the Temple of Zeus and what we believe it would have looked like in Olympia, Greece. And the right is an animated version of this temple as imagined by Disney in the film Hercules. Now, along the lines of imitation and reinvention, a lot of the details in Hercules are similar to the actual story of Hercules. The film is loosely based on the story of Hercules in the way that Hercules is the son of Zeus and a hero of Greece. Throughout the movie, there are images that allude to the 12 labors of Hercules, however, none of them are expressly talked about. You can see imagery of different stories of Greek heroes and of Greek gods throughout the movie, but none of them are expressly talked about. The film is very watered down. It's an allusion to Greek mythology, making references here and there, but not really addressing any of the gods' or heroes' backgrounds. And the way that the gods are depicted is very different to how they are seen in many other TV, movie renditions of Greek mythology. In the film Hercules, like many other animated imitations of Greek mythology, the gods are depicted in a highly stylistic way so that viewers can easily tell them apart. In an effort to keep their essence alive, most of the gods are drawn with symbols that are sacred to their divine counterpart. And animators also played with the coloring and character designs to make it even more obvious which character represented which god. In many animated variations of Greek tales, this is the case because it's easier for the audience, but it isn't so easy in the live-action depictions. In these photos, you'll see that some of their depiction and symbols are derived from their ancient descriptions, and it's much easier to relate these characters to the ancient gods than it is in a live-action rendition of a Greek tale. On this slide, I have a few pictures of characters from the 2023 TV series Percy Jackson and the Olympians. And the reason that I chose this interpretation of Percy Jackson is because it's much more book accurate than the movies were, and because it is more book accurate, it is more accurate to how the gods are actually portrayed and how they're actually seen in modern times. They're not dressed in plated armor or traditional Greek attire. They look more like modern people. And the Greeks believed that the gods looked like people, only better. In a live-action adaptation, that can be pretty difficult. You can't exactly cast a human being to look like more than just a human being in the way that the Greeks expected the gods to look. The way that live-action depictions get around this is by assigning the characters certain traits to go along with the god they are portraying. I believe that Percy Jackson and the Olympians does this rather well, however the ancient gods may not approve of how they are portrayed. Poseidon's pride would definitely be wounded if he discovered much of the modern world thinks of him as a laid-back surfer dude. End quote. But when you can't attach a person to an object like many animated adaptations do, you have to differentiate the characters in other ways. In the series, the gods are portrayed to follow certain stereotypes so that they can be identified. Zeus, played by Lace Reddick, is a grouchy, controlling older man who believes that his word is law. And Dionysus is a bitter drunk who would rather spend his time in the woods. There are also depictions of other gods, such as Hades, and Hades is kind of a loner. He likes to stay in the underworld and not really leave. And he's also a little bit bitter that he has been tasked with running the underworld. There are also characters like Athena and Ares who are depicted about how you would expect them to. They have a little bit of a rivalry. And it's these small details that help us really discern and figure out which character is supposed to be portraying which god. These traits that we associate with the gods allow us to make sense of them without knowing what they were really meant to look like. So here we have two pictures. The one on the left is of traditional Greek statues depicting the gods, and the one on the right is an AI-generated depiction of what the gods would look like today. I know you can't see it because I am blocking part of it, but I think it does a pretty good job of depicting how they would look if they were posing for a modern family portrait. The way that we view the gods has changed a lot over the many centuries. Figures that used to be thought of as responsible for the entire existence of the human race are now simple characters on TV. However, one thing hasn't changed: the fact that we have no idea what the gods were actually supposed to look like. We have no idea how the Greeks decided what they should look like, or if they even really decided at all. In a way, I believe that this is what Ovid and the other ancient authors intended. The gods were not supposed to be seen in the way that we see one another. They are divinities. I think that we were meant to see them in the world around us. And when we try to depict them, to assign traits to the Greek gods as we see fit, we sometimes lose the history behind them. Greek mythology wasn't a TV show or a movie. It was a religion and a way of life. It was how people made sense of the world around them. Ovid left room for interpretation when it came to describing the gods, and maybe it was because he didn't think it important enough to include, or maybe it was because he knew that the gods were ever changing and ever evolving. At least the modern gods have this in common with the ancient gods: no one can decide what they look like. They take many different forms, and they never act quite as we'd expect. And in this way, we still find them mysterious, and they still hold some power over us, at least in the way that we perceive them. Art is ever evolving too, just like the Greek gods. And of course, an ever-evolving muse and an ever-evolving practice are going to change the way that they see each other. I think that Ovid's brief descriptions of the gods were a reflection of how they could never truly be captured, even if Ovid didn't believe that they actually existed.